कितने पैसे चाहिए?
पैसा नहीं, इज्जत। मोहल्ले के चिरकुट लौंडे हरा रहे हैं फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स में। आप एक्सपर्ट हो, सिखाओ।
सिखाऊंगा तो जाने दोगे?
फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स का असली अखाड़ा।
इस गेम में वित्तीय जोखिम के तत्व हैं और इसकी लत लग सकती है। कृपया जिम्मेदारी से और अपने जोखिम पर खेलें।
Hello and welcome to the Outside View live powered by Fantasy Akhada, and here we are back again for our pre-show for the final T20I between Sri Lanka versus India. India have already sealed the series 2-0 and we're going to have a dead rubber, but I think there are a few things that Indian team and the Sri Lankan team needs to figure out moving ahead into the Commonwealth Games, which starts later next month. In July. So I would like to welcome Annesha, Ghosh and Thirushkamini as our experts for this show. Welcome.
Hello, Akash. It's nice to be a part of this show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're back, Thirush, for this show for the third T20I. So let's just get straight into this. The conversations around the final T20I is more about whether India gets the combinations right or not. Have made a few changes even after they won the first T20I. They made a few changes to for the second T20I. Thirush, do you see India going ahead into this game also making a few more changes, trying a few more combinations?
I'm sure they are going to try a lot of combination going into the third T20 simply because we do have, they've obviously sealed the series, and with Commonwealth games around the corner, you do want to give a lot of opportunities to the player, and that's exactly why we see a different playing 11 every time India goes into a T20 game. And obviously, we could expect Meghna Singh, who hasn't got an opportunity up until this point, and also Poonam Yadav could get an opportunity to get a go, because obviously you'd want to see how she is able to a prominent player of the Indian side for a very long period, and obviously you do want to see a leg spinner in action in a T20 format. So maybe those could be the changes which Harman would be looking at this point. And also maybe they would also want to give Richa Ghosh another go, because she's just had one game under her belt. You do want to give a player, a youngster, another opportunity, because she has been exceptional in the recent past. So we definitely would want to see more of Richa Ghosh also in action.
This is exactly where I would like Annesha to chip in with a few comments. Richa, we have seen her growth in the last 1 year or so as a wicket keeper. We know what she can do with the bat. She holds the record for the fastest 50 in ODI cricket as well for India. So we know what she can do with the bat, but it's sometimes her keeping that has let her down. But we have seen improvements in that over there, and she's a very young player. Was that a correct decision to have her dropped out of the team in the last T20I, Annesha?
I think, Akash, it was more about giving an opportunity to a backup wicketkeeper in Yastika Bhatia than really dropping Richa Ghosh, because we heard Ramesh Pawar and Harmanpreet Kaur say ahead of the start of the series that they want to finalize not just the squad for the Commonwealth Games, but the playing 11. These were their words. So keeping that in mind, they made a concerted effort in terms of maximizing the opportunities for the playing 11, which is why they made a sweep of changes in the second T20I, part of which was also Yastika Bhatia donning the gloves instead of Richa Ghosh. So I think the rationale that dictated the decision making was to give Yastika Bhatia some opportunity and suss out whether at all she's comfortable playing this role in the T20I format. And we saw her keep the wickets for velocity in the women's T20 challenge. Prior to that, I think most people who had watched her keep wickets was only at the domestic level. That was the first time potentially she was playing in a high profile game, and with so many people around the world watching her keep wickets. So keeping the progression of events in the recent past, I think the selection committee also, even in the squad list that was released by the BCCI, for a change, we saw wicketkeeper specifically being mentioned next to Yastika Bhatia's name, which is usually not the case in terms of BCCI releases. So probably that was a decision on the part of the selection committee as well, and the think tank overall, along with Ramesh Pawar and Harmanpreet Kaur, that here is a potential backup in Yastika Bhatia that the team should look to utilize on the tour of Sri Lanka. And we know what she can do with the bat. She's a reliable player, adds a lot of reliability with her ability to just dig her heels in and steady, mitigate any wobble early on. So she's a reliable campaigner with the bat. Whether she's able to do justice to the opportunities she's getting with the gloves, she did reasonably well today. There were a couple of tough chances she missed, but overall, I think she made a strong case for her to be included in this playing 11 for the third T20I, and I don't think it would be prudent on the part of the Indian think tank to again get Richa Ghosh into the mix of things. Maybe that's something they'll want to keep for the Commonwealth Games if at all they decide to go in with Richa Ghosh as the first choice wicketkeeper batter.
Before we move ahead, my producer tells me that India has won the toss and they've elected to bat. We'll have the playing 11 in a while. But before I move, yeah, I'm extremely sorry. I lost myself there for a while. But yeah, so India have won the toss. They've elected to bat first. So before we move ahead, there was a bit of the batting order that was there in the last T20I. We could really talk about it a bit because there were players I felt who were batting a little out of their positions. We already had Jemmy batting at number 5 in the first T20I. And then we saw Yastika being brought into the team in Richa's place. Now she comes at 6. So Yastika was predominantly a T20 top order player, and she has done so well batting in top order. In the top order, has been pushed down to number 6. Does that affect? What do you think about that kind of a call? Because you have somebody who is a specialist number 6, number 5 in the team, who's Richa for that matter. You bring in Yastika. Is that a good preparation? Should she be the one, if at all she is the wicketkeeper for the Commonwealth Games, should she bat lower down the order or should she be pushed back in the top order in the T20I team to just make herself available in that slot?
Well, I think the players who are batting at this point, in terms of Shefali and Smriti, who the openers obviously have created a huge mark, and so I don't think there's any reason to make a change in the opening partnership. Looks pretty fine to me. But when you come to the top order, like number 3, you have Meghna, who is playing at that spot. And talking about Meghna has been a very good player. We've seen she had a phenomenal domestic season, and also in the New Zealand series, she did make an impact. And she's coming also in the recently concluded Women's T20 Challenge. The opportunity that she's got, she's really made most of it. So I think it is fair by giving her an opportunity and seeing, giving her, obviously she was an opener herself. Due to the combination, she has to drop herself to number 3. So I think so far so good. But then talking about the number 5 and 6, Yastika, who comes in place of Richa Ghosh. Maybe Yastika, who's got into the team as a keeper, has also fielded in the recently concluded World Cup, which we obviously know. They did have Tanya Bhatia and Richa Ghosh, who had and Yastika play in the playing 11 in the 50 over World Cup. So I don't think that is going to be something very new, having Yastika field and also keep at the same point. So it is all about trying to get your combinations right, because for a very certain reason, Jemmy, who was batting at number 3 in the first T20 when she was given a different batting order, played exceptionally well. In fact, she played a very responsible innings, enabling India to the reach to a very respectable target. So that is something that we have seen, and Jemima has done very well in that spot. Probably a Yastika, who had come in at number 6, could give us a different combination and bring a much more prominence to the batting. So I think unless one plays in that slot, we wouldn't be very sure about what they are able to do and what's the kind of potential, or what is the kind of what is the kind of positivity that they would bring to the batting order.
Same time, we get an update that India is unchanged for the third T20I, and they'll go ahead with Yastika and everybody. But let's just shift the discussion to the bowling lineup. We saw India having Rajeshwari Gaikwad, Radha Yadav, and Deepti Sharma as their spinners in the first T20I. Then they left out Rajeshwari Gaikwad, brought in Simran Bahadur, who I think is a decent enough medium pace bowler. She's obviously young. She's getting more experience with time. She's somebody who could potentially be a player in the 11 in the Commonwealth Games. Annesha, do you see Indian team tinkering with the spin bowling combination now that they have in this T20I match? It's Deepti Sharma and Radha Yadav, and both are good T20 bowlers, make no mistake. So do India stick to them, or is there somebody else? Because we do have Rajeshwari Gaikwad, a much more experienced player and who has a proven match winner, as we know. And there's also Poonam Yadav. I remember Thirushkamini touched upon it earlier. Poonam Yadav, a leg spinner, is there in the team, has not been tried in all the three ODI T20 matches. Looking at the fact where the coach and the captain come and say that we are looking to try out players, and your most experienced leg spinner doesn't get a call in 3 of the games, what does that tell you about these decisions, Annesha?
I think with Radha Yadav exuding the form she has been able to in the first two T20Is, Harmanpreet does feel confident about the spin attack that we are seeing being fielded in the third T20I as well. Radha Yadav is the leading wicket taker in this series, mind you, and Deepti Sharma is also in the top 3 wicket takers list. So, given the performance, it's understandable why Harmanpreet has chosen to go with an unchanged bowling attack as part of an overall unchanged 11. As far as Poonam Yadav is concerned, hers is an interesting case study because here is a player who had been for the longest time been India's premier T20I bowler, period. Whether it be in the pace bowling department or across the spin bowling department, she was terrific. It was so difficult to handle her trajectory, the loop she would impart to her bowling. She was a difficult campaigner for opponents across the board. But after a point, we saw that she was found out. The opponents were able to suss out her strengths reasonably well, step down the track to counter that slight difficulty with her that her trajectory posed earlier. And as a result, Poonam Yadav's confidence also took a bit of a jolt. There was this press conference during the tour of England, I remember, where Harmanpreet had stressed why she had been imploring upon Poonam Yadav to stick to her strengths. At a point, there was a point she started going more flatter, where her strengths clearly lie in give the ball more loop, more air, which wasn't quite happening. So with Poonam Yadav trying a few things as well, probably did not quite go to her plans, and that led to a slide in form, which has continued, ever since that ever since the second game of the 2020 T20 World Cup. She was phenomenal in the tournament opener against Australia, easily was India's standout performer. But after that, we saw her struggling in the Australia tour, in the limited opportunities she got. So here is a player who is not giving the captain or the team management a lot of confidence for her to be coming into the attack. And Radha Yadav, mind you, adds the dimension of batting and fielding into the mix, which Rajeshwari Gaikwad doesn't quite offer, nor does Poonam Yadav. And with T20I being the dynamic format that it is, and the opposition lineups like that of Australia's, South Africa's, having gotten a batting depth as enviable as theirs, India really don't have much choice in terms of either being suspect on the field, and if they get Richa Ghosh in solely as a batter, remember she's another another player who is suspect on the field. So keeping all of this in mind, I think India want to round out the playing 11 for the Commonwealth Games, which is as watertight in the fielding department as it is in the other two departments as well, which is why Radha Yadav is clearly ahead in the race when it comes to the two left-arm spinners, Rajeshwari Gaikwad being the other one, and also will have the tips scaled and have the scales tipped in her favor when compared to somebody as experienced as Poonam Yadav.
Before we move ahead, let's just take a look at the playing 11. India are unchanged. Obviously, Sri Lanka have made 2 changes. Ramakanchana is back again in place of Hasini Pereira. and we also see Malsha Shahini also been brought back into the team. So that's the two changes that Sri Lanka have made. We'll touch upon Sri Lanka, but a couple of things that I would like to go ahead and ask. Annesha, T20 game being such a dynamic sport, as you clearly mentioned, we do see sometimes that there are teams wanting to play leg spinners in this format. And India sort of are at a place where they have a leg spinner who, I don't want to say that, put it in a way like, but is her pace an issue? Because that's been pointed out from time to time. If you look at somebody like an Alana King, for that matter, her pace is slightly faster. She's faster than Poonam Yadav, and that really helps her maybe sometimes to deceive the batter. Is that something that Poonam Yadav should work on, or is that something that she can work on? Or if she's not the option, if Poonam Yadav is not the option, does India have somebody ready on the bench? Because we saw a couple in the women's T20 challenge. We did see Maya Sonavne, but we also have Devika Vetya, who has been in and out of the Indian team, and also her domestic record with injuries and stuff. She has been struggling. So does India have an option ahead, going ahead, to come in and bring a leg spinner in this format?
The short answer, unfortunately, is no, as far as being game ready at the international level is concerned. Devika Vaidya is another intriguing case study because she got thrust out of the national reckoning gradually, and she had immense potential as an all-rounder, was doing well for Maharashtra, but we don't quite know what really pegged her back in terms of selection calls made by the two selection committees, mind you. There was the change of guard a couple of years ago with Neetu Davids. Committee coming into play. In terms of Maya Sonavne, she does have that interesting Paul Adams-like action, which became the talking point when she made her women's T20 challenge debut in May at the NCA Stadium for the Dipti Sharma-led Velocity. But there are creases in her bowling too, which I'm pretty sure she'll work on as she gets more experience under her belt at the highest level. The other option is the other option who's part of the Indian mix right now is Harleen Deol, but she's not part of this T20I squad. She can be a reasonable part-time bowler, does so for the domestic side. She has played in and was even used a couple of times by Smriti Mandhana when Harleen Deol was playing for her side, Trailblazers, at the Women's T20 Challenge. Whether Harleen gets the opportunity to bowl in T20I, that will be determined to a large to a large part by whether she at all is part of the T20I mix, which is not the case at the moment. So Poonam Yadav is the sole experienced, tried and tested option that India have at their disposal, but clearly she's not being able to infuse the kind of confidence that a captain wants of her strike bowlers. And whatever the issue is, I think the coach and the captain will need to talk it out. The problem, in my opinion, with a bowler as established as Poonam Yadav is perhaps something minor. It's got to do with the versatility of her bowling. Probably she got too predictable and unidimensional with her flight on loop. And after a point, she became a sitting duck for batters like Alisa Healy, especially the Australians. She got attacked pretty much, and also by England. So that's something. Poonam Yadav is all about the jigra, the heart she imparts to her bowling. Once that confidence takes a hit, I think as a spinner, you're left with very little option. You try to go on the back foot. So once she is able to find that heart in her bowling, that jigra, which she often speaks about, I think Poonam Yadav still has a lot to offer to this Indian side. She's easily one of the best spinners produced in Indian cricket, one of the best alongside the likes of her guru Neetu David. So hopefully she'll be able to find a semblance of form, and if she's able to replicate some bits of form we saw her exude during the stretch between early 2018 to early 2020, I think India will do really well in terms of fielding a more well-rounded spin attack.
Moving on from that conversation about spinners, I think Sri Lanka themselves have a good bunch of spinners, and they've got a good spin attack going ahead into the Commonwealth Games as well. Thirush, how impressive have Sri Lanka's bowling been because if you really think about it, in the first game, they got India into a position where we could, like, there was a bit of scare as far as the Indian fans are concerned. But then come to the second T20I also, when they did not have a lot of runs on the board, they still, yeah, you could talk about, oh, it's Dambulla, the ball turns a bit, there's a little bit, the ball was not coming onto the bat properly, but still you got to pitch them at the right place. How impressive have Sri Lanka's bowling unit been? I mean, I could name Ranavire or Ranasinghe. Both of them have done really well. How impressive have they been overall?
The Sri Lanka bowling unit is unlike India's bowling lineup. They're fully spin dependent team, and that's exactly what we see. They have two left arm spinners like Inoka Ranavira, and then they have a Sugita, two left arm spinners and two off spinners, and also they do have the like of Chamari Attupattu who can come in and give you those few overs. Apart from Prabodhini, I think it's a very a fully spin dependent team, and that's exactly what we're seeing. What was extremely surprising for me was India being the kind of team that is was struggling a little bit against the spin department of the Sri Lanka, because that's generally we don't see against the Indians. They would be extremely comfortable when you have spinners who are operating, and also with a spinner opening, Indians could have been more comfortable is what I thought so. But all credit to the way they've played, and the only concern for the Sri Lanka at this point is their batting. But apart from the batting, their bowling and fielding looks a little bit of a top notch, and could actually has put India a little on the back foot in terms of trying to accelerate. Every time and again, they have been picking wickets, because that's exactly what you'd want to see in a T20 game, picking up wickets at regular intervals, not enabling a partnership to be built, or even if a partnership is built, then again there's a cluster of wickets that's been falling. So that's exactly what you'd want to see from a bowling unit, and that's exactly what Sri Lanka has been doing at this point, and have been considerably doing well, consistently doing well for the past two games. So I must really say that they have been impressive in terms of their bowling.
Can be a little bit frustrating for a team when one facet of their game is good. They are a good bowling unit, but sometimes it just brings out the batting and the over dependence on Chamari. We have spoken about it like at length of the over dependence on Chamari, and we do see Vishnu Gururatne did well in the previous game, but then again there was that collapse after you have a platform. And you have a partnership of say 90 runs, you need somebody to come and play that little cameo of say 10 ball 20 or something that just pushes you and gives you that edge and deflates the opposition. That's something that Sri Lanka did not do in the last game. They let go of that advantage that they have. What should be, I could go on and ask you that what should be the score that Sri Lanka should look to restrict India so that they can go and chase. But we all know that's not that simple, and it can be a little frustrating as a captain or as a player or just as a team, Annesha. Don't you think so?
Oh, for sure. And I think their frustrations are going to be all the more compounded today, because from what I learned, it's going to be a new pitch, which is expected to have more carry. So the spinners could have a hard time. And one of the broadcasters, in fact, said during the pitch report that it's as hard as the Dambulla rock. So with some of the Indian batters, like say Smriti Mandhana, liking to let the ball come into the bat nicely, this could be it. As we discussed in the second, after the second T20I, that given India have ticked several boxes, some of their batters performed in the first T20I, a different set of batters performed in the second. This could be the match where they come out all guns blazing, because they literally have nothing to lose. And also the fact that it gives them more freedom in terms of playing their natural game, playing to their potential, so to speak. So this could compound Sri Lanka's woes, given they will not or are not likely to get much assistance, their spin attack, I mean, specifically from this particular surface. And if it does allow the batters to start calling the shots in a little sense early on, the outfield is also expected to be quite quick. I think Chamari Atapattu will have a few problems to solve early on, and unless there is a disciplined, concerted overall effort from their bowling attack, we could even see India reach to as much as 150, 160, which you do not quite expect from either a batting lineup as volatile as India's, or on surfaces in Sri Lanka. You don't expect such high scores, but given the nature of the surface that we are looking at, that could potentially be on the cards, and it could further dent the confidence of the Sri Lankans heading into the ODI leg, given there are 3 ODIs to play after this, which come towards the ICC Women's Championship, and it's going to be the inaugural ICC Women's Championship series in the new cycle for both teams. So Sri Lanka really need to be disciplined and proactive in terms of how they go about not just with their bowling choices, but also in the field. We saw them share a couple of chances in the first T10 and also in the second T20I, including that of Harmanpreet Kaur, who went on to play a critical unbeaten innings in the second T20I. So it has to be a holistic, well-rounded performance from the hosts should they harbor any hopes whatsoever to not just avert a clean sweep, but also carry a semblance of confidence heading into the ODI leg of this tour.
The Indian openers have already walked out to the middle and the innings has started. So quick predictions I would like from the experts. Thirush, what is the score that you think India will get today? And if you had to pick one star batter that we should pin our hopes on, who would that be?
I think definitely 160 on cards when you know that you've understood the bowlers and you know what exactly they're going to bowl. So I think 160 is on cards. And if I have to pick a batter, I think I would go with Harman, who has been considerably consistent in the past two T20. So Harman it is.
Harman has been quite consistent. It's just lovely to watch her play in T20 cricket. She's a fantastic player. Annesha, your predictions similar or you have a different name in your mind?
My prediction in terms of the score would have been same as that of Thirush, 160. But given how unpredictable and susceptible to collapses India have been in both T20Is, I'm going to rein my temptations in a little bit and go for 150 odd. That should be the bare minimum they should look to post on the board, really, given they have the series in the bag, the nature of the pitch, and all of that. In terms of the player to watch out for, I would love for Harman to carry on the form she has displayed in this series, and also because she's kind of acing the role of a floater. She's bringing herself on early on in the lineup and at times demoting herself down the order. So Harman is there for sure. But this could be the day when Shefali Verma scores more than a run about 31 or that 17 those 17 quick fire runs she scored in the second T20I. So good time for Shefali Verma to flex her batting muscles and show what she's really got. We haven't seen the high-scoring, quick-scoring Shefali Verma in a long time. Her strike rate in the past 10 innings or so has been hovering around that 100 mark, which is quite unusual for a batter like Shefali Verma. So here's a chance for the teenager who was spoken of highly by her opening partner Smriti Mandhana after the second T20 to show that she's really got what it takes to perform on slow pitches.
My producer, just as Annesha was passionately talking about how Shefali Verma will get a score today, my producer tells me that Shefali is gone. So I don't want to put it on you, Annesha. You did not jinx it, but yeah, that is what it is. That is what it is. But we'll be back with our mid-show once the Indian innings ends. Till then, stay tuned to Women's Cricket Zone for all the updates on women's cricket and also the live match between Sri Lanka and India.
ये पट्टा अब सीख तो गए, अब तो जाने दो मुझे।
ठहर जाइए, कोई प्रॉब्लम हो गई तो कहाँ ढूंढेंगे आपको?
फैंटेसी अखाड़ा का 24/7 कस्टमर सर्विस है, आपकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करवा देंगे।
कल जाने देंगे।
फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स का असली अखाड़ा।
इस गेम में वित्तीय जोखिम के तत्व हैं और इसकी लत लग सकती है। कृपया जिम्मेदारी से और अपने जोखिम पर खेलें।